We're here.
Hey, babe.
On With the Perrys. You know, Lisa Fields is here, and her outfit made me think of a song. You know, it's a Clark Sisters song that was the cadence of the song. It was inspired by one of Stevie Wonder's songs, and it's like, you brought the sunshine, you brought the light, and there's nothing impossible.
What are you mumbling?
Jesus is the answer.
You just destroyed
I'm gonna let that go.
You
I wore this because the last time we had breakfast when I came to Atlanta, you said Lisa better not come in here
with a suit on.
And I didn't.
No,
I dressed
But
appropriately.
it's suitish.
Lisa be walking.
It's suitish.
No, Lisa be hanging out, playing cards, going to get coffee, looking suited and booted.
Looking like she finna go defend a couple of juvenile delinquents.
It's giving like you graduated from Spelman, Howard.
She was looking like a lawyer every
it's
day.
Giving principal, administrative, like boss, not assistant, boss.
I blame my mama. Because in middle school, she used to dress me like I was going to work. And it just stuck.
Every time I see you, you look like you studied your whole life.
No, you look like you got money. You like you got several accounts.
You give that rich auntie that ain't got no kids and just always giving they nieces and nephews a whole bunch of money and
800
then you
credit
just
score. Like you got CDs. Not the music.
But this is actually nice.
It's the most casual I've ever seen Lisa Fields in my entire life. Welcome to the couch, Lisa Fields, everybody. Lisa has a new book coming out called When Faith Disappoints. Subtitle is The Gap Between What We Believe and What We Experience. Now, if anybody knows you, they know that you do apologetic work, right? So even when I saw the title of this, I was like intrigued by it because I was like, oh, you would think that like Lisa would come out with like defending the faith and how to talk to Hebrew Israelites or something like that. Like, why address faith when it relates to like some incongruence between what we believe and what we know and all the stuff?
Yeah, I feel like people do exit interviews with me when they leave the faith. They always want to talk to me on their way out. And I saw this reoccurring theme of just being disappointed. Whether they grew up in a word of faith background or a more reformed background, the disappointment of what they thought that the faith was going to bring them versus what they actually were experiencing was one of the reasons they were exiting. And while they had some church hurt or different things, the core issue was they were mad at God. And so I was like, I want to write a book addressing them because they're angry at God and they don't know how to wrestle with God.
That's good.
And so if you don't know how to wrestle with God, you'll leave the faith. But when you wrestle with God, your faith becomes stronger. And so I wanted to give really a kind of a guide and help people know that this is a normal occurrence in the Christian faith. That I've wrestled with it. Many people throughout scripture have wrestled with it. And it's normal for you to be disappointed. It's normal for you to be angry. And I thought that was a way to kind of stop the bleeding of the mass exodus we're seeing from people of all ages and races leaving the faith.
That's good.
Wow, that's good. Can you talk about that though? Can you talk about your personal wrestle with faith? Because I do apologetics too, and I think a lot of times when we are in this space, people are like, oh, always be prepared to make a defense for why you believe what you believe, and so I think they have this misconception that apologists just always have answers and they never have questions for the Lord. And it's like, no, I think in a lot of ways the reason why we have answers is because we wrestle through the questions. Right. And so, can you talk about that? I read the book, and one of the things that stuck out to me is the kind of experience you had with your professor. And your professor saying, I don't want to ruin it, but can you just talk about that dynamic and that wrestle as being a person who's in a lot of academic spaces, a person who's an apologist, you're great at what you do, but you've also had your own personal experience with doubt in faith.
So as a seminary student at Liberty, I was wrestling with my faith. We were learning about the problem of evil. You go through all these courses, and I heard something about terrorists murdering children. And that really struck me because I'm like, God, I understand. I understand all the apologetic. I know we got free will. I know that you're working these things out for our good. I know, as Tim Keller said, just because we don't know the reason doesn't mean there isn't a good reason.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't emotionally satisfying for me.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of people, that's what it is. It's like, okay, you giving me the logic, you giving me the apologetic, but this don't sit right with my soul. Because for me, I grew up with great parents. My parents, if they knew that anything bad was about to happen to me and they could stop it, they would. So if you're telling me that God loves me more than my parents, and when it comes to adults, sometimes you'd be like, you know, maybe something happened to you that you deserve what's happening. You sometimes people try to ration it out like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to children,
Yeah.
you like, God, they're innocent. There is nothing they did for a terrorist to do this to them.
Yeah.
And so in my soul, I just could not reconcile it. And so I went to my professor. I was like, Dr. Purser, I'm going to go to him. He's the director over the apologetics department. He has his PhD in New Testament. So he's going to give me this great answer. So I go in there. I always used to talk to him. I was a student that used my professor's office hours to talk and flesh out stuff. And so he was no stranger to me being in his office. And so I was telling him what I was dealing with. And he was like, me too. And I was like, oh, that's the best you're going to give me? He was like, chapel starting in 15 minutes. You ready to go? And I think that really helped me know that, like, him sitting with me in that moment, he knew that I knew the reason. The logical reasons.
Yeah.
But he was like, let me give her relatability. Let me sit in this with her to let her know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And that really was what helped me get to the other side.
I think that's beautiful because I think it just shows us that in all the knowledge that we know, you have to, like, leading with our humanity goes a long way, right? Because, like, Jesus, like, I often think it's funny how God became man to dwell amongst his own creation to lead us in humanity. And oftentimes we try to help people by having all the answers like God. And a lot of times God was just present.
Yeah.
And he just empathized and he said, you know, I'm hurt too. You know, Martha and Mary, I'm gonna cry with y'all too over Lazarus' death. And so I think that's dope. That's dope.
Do you think your early church experience gave you the tools, the resources, or even the framework to be able to wrestle with God in that way? Or was it new for you to experience what you were experiencing in college?
You know, I never questioned God. Like, I just didn't have a reason to question him. I grew up kind of sheltered Christian home. And so there was never anything that I deemed traumatic to question. Like, I was in a bubble. And you're not really wrestling with the hard complexities of the world. And so I never questioned, or I never was technically wrestling with something that deep where I had to, like, wrestle with the question. My dad always told us, because my father's a pastor, like, talk to God how you talk to me. So that was always kind of my framework of talking to God. But I never had to wrestle critically till I got to college.
Do you think that people are afraid to do that? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. They feel like they're going to get struck down by lightning if they question God. They feel like, how dare they? Because, you know, if you grew up in black churches, it's like, don't question God. And so they're like, I can't do this. But to grow in any relationship, I love Joe Vitale says, when you enter any relationship, you ask questions. When you met Preston, or with Preston, you met Jackie, y'all asked each other questions, not because...
He asked me a million questions.
Because you wanted to get to know the person. But when we come to God, it's like, why do you think that you're going to grow in your relationship with him without questioning?
That's good.
That's really good. That's
excellent.
really good. I think one of the things that make you so effective is that it's very obvious that you've learned how to critically think through things, right? And so, like, but you also said that, you know, in your childhood, I don't know if you're saying that your parents didn't prepare you for the questions when you went out in the world, but I don't know about you. Being in an apologetic space, I often have parents come to me saying, you know, my child is an atheist now that they went to college. My child is wrestling with, you know, being a Hebrew Israelite or whatever. And it's like, you know, it almost seems like people in the Christian faith kind of have like this reactionary type faith. Well, we try to prepare once something happened. And so how did you learn how to critically think through things? And also, too, I think the second part of that question is, how can we as a church teach people how to critically think through these hard questions with the Lord? So when we get out to college, when we get out into the real world, we won't be rocked by. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So undergrad, I was not prepared for my New Testament class at the University of North Florida. Our textbook was Bart Ehrman, which is a New Testament professor that teaches at UNC Chapel Hill that is now an atheist. So imagine getting an intro to New Testament book written by, at the time, he was an agnostic. He actually is a Moody graduate, I believe.
Wait, I'm sorry.
That's
Was he
wild.
a Christian that turned into an agnostic, that turned into an atheist?
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
I think he was a Moody or Wheaton graduate. But by the time he wrote the book, he was already agnostic.
Wow.
And so,
Why is that the textbook? Why is that on the syllabus?
Well, it was a
nobody
university.
praying through? Huh?
it was just a state. It wasn't a Christian school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Never
so
mind.
they're not looking
I'm
for.
like, what's going on here?
Yeah, so I was not prepared for that. You know, my parents taught me the Bible, but my parents didn't go to college until they graduated from college as adults after they had us.
Yeah.
And so they had never had to wrestle with that themselves. So they were not equipped to prepare me for that.
yeah.
So when I took that class, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, can I trust this? And then that's when my dad introduced me to apologetics.
Wow.
Which helped me navigate
That's dope.
that class.
Yeah.
But before, I was just like, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
Like,
That's good. I mean, he didn't have the tools to prepare you, but he knew what to point you to, which was dope.
One of the hardest things for me to cut out of my diet oftentimes is not fat or salt, but sugar.
Yeah.
It's like a thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to find, you know, really good food that's not loaded with a whole bunch of sugar, but still good.
Especially cereal. That's why you got this box in your hand.
Yep.
If you're listening to us, you can't see it, but it's from Magic Spoon.
Magic Spoon.
Magic Spoon has reinvented your childhood favorites. We got the variety pack with cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter flavors. This one is frosted. What you got in your hand? That looks like the fruity.
I got the fruity kind. It reminds me of a childhood cereal that I used to eat, and it's really good. And it also gives you extra protein. So after a workout, you want to eat this cereal. This is the go.
The flavors in these packs have 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Plus, it is only 140 calories a serving. Magic Spoon is a high protein, keto friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free way to relive those moments watching your favorite cartoons like Hey Arnold, and stuff like that. It really does remind you of your childhood. They even have a game on the back of the box. So you can go to magicspoon.com/Perry to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code Perry at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product. It's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund you your money. No questions asked. Remember? Start your day off right with a delicious bowl of high protein cereal at magicspoon.com/Perry and use the code Perry to save $5 buckaroos off.
Buckaroos.
I think one element of wrestling with God or questions or doubt that's helpful is it teaches you even about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because as you come to God with your questions, I think even your own fears and angst and stresses and pain come up in conversation with God. And then you give God the opportunity to clarify himself through his word, through his people, all the stuff. And so I feel like when we run from the hard questions, we actually run from a degree of intimacy.
Yeah, knowing
Honestly.
God.
Yeah, like you limit your ability to be like, oh, like you are good, you are faithful, you are confusing, but you are good.
Yeah.
Like he's a mystery on some level.
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. Were there any? I got a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
Were there any answers that you got from the questions, from the hard questions that you got that made you like believe in God more? Or because I know when you talked about how your professor didn't really have like an answer for you when you went in his office. But has there ever been a time where the Lord actually answered a hard question that you had concerning faith, your doubt, or whatever? And what did that look like?
Yeah, great question. So I think a lot of my questions have been around recently, starting Jude 3,
We need to talk about Jude 3.
For sure.
is really wrestling with where is God in the calling that he's given me.
Talk about it, Yellow. Come on.
So I went through during the pandemic, I went through a major faith crisis. My mentor died within the week of my grandfather. A month later, a whole scandal came out about him. Not my grandfather, my mentor. So I went through this crisis, like, God, why did you call me to a field, and success to me starts to look like failure? Like you set people up for failure. Like they do your work, but there's no success at the end. There's not a finish strong. And I'm like, are you setting me up? Because if you setting me up, I'm good.
I don't want no parts.
I don't want to do this. And so I went through this whole crisis of like, God, I don't want to do this. And I feel like not only are you setting me up, but you only answer the prayers that's related to ministry. You don't answer the personal ones.
Keep talking.
Because I'm like, I didn't want to do this in the first place. My goal was to be a stockbroker working on Wall Street in New York.
We can tell. That ain't no revelation.
That ain't no revelation.
That's plain.
I didn't want to do this. I got called in this because the crisis of faith I had. So this is not my goal. And there's some personal things that I want that I feel like I pray about that you don't answer. But if I pray about Jude 3 stuff, you answer. And it's causing this resentment in my heart. Like, because I'm like, God, what is this? Like, I don't want to be here.
Wow.
These ain't my goals. What
did he say? You got me on the edge of my seat.
But I feel like I want you to say this sentence because you said it in your book, but you also told me over coffee. You was like, you feel like God only wants to use me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was feeling used by God, not loved by him.
Not used in a way that like people like brag about, but like he's using.
Yeah.
He's using me to do his work, but not hearing and doing the things that would like make me feel loved.
Wow.
And cared for.
Yeah.
I remember I was sitting in my therapy session and my therapist said, how do you feel about God? And the words flew out of my mouth before I could catch them. I said, I resent him.
Wow.
Now I'm leading a whole ministry. This is only 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
I'm leading the whole ministry and people like, this is successful. And I'm telling people how to navigate their questions. And I didn't realize that I resented the person that called me to the ministry. And I think I had to go through that space. I always say you have to get it out of your mouth to get it out of your heart. And when I was able to voice that, when I gave language to it, the Lord just started ministering to me in ways and showing me the ways he had shown up for me. And it's like, you're so focused on that, you don't see all the other things I've done for you. And so it was a really sweet moment where I had to walk through and do the work of really pulling up all of that bitterness and resentment. I remember the Lord showed me like in prayer, a glass vase with layers of grass and dirt. And at the top layer, it seemed nice. But then you looked underneath, it was layers of just grass and dirt that had died. And he was like, that's your heart. You just piling stuff on top of each other. You haven't been dealing with the things. You haven't been dealing with the disappointment. And so I went into this intense time where I was like, okay, one of the reasons that this is off is because I've allowed work to take over. And I'm so busy that I don't have a strong devotional life. And so I need to get back to the basics. So I need to implement an hour a day of straight devotional where I'm spending quiet time. I'm very consistent with this now. 30 minutes in silence, not asking God for anything, just saying, God, look at my heart, interrogate my heart, show me the things in me that are not like you. Then going through scripture, then praying and making requests.
Yeah.
But that has been so transformational for for him to pull out those things in me that didn't need to be there, the bitterness that didn't need to be there. I remember I was sitting with him one time and he said, call them and make it right. It was a list of people that I either had wronged or they had wronged me. And he wanted me to go reach out to them. And with each call, the free I felt. And I didn't realize how bound I was by unforgiveness.
My goodness.
Because I was not letting the Lord show me the places where he needed me to devote attention to.
Yeah, that's so good.
God.
That went super deep.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Because what it's given is the resentment was legitimate, but it was also it was like the fruit of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically like even her perception of God and how she was like surveying her life and his dealings with her were even coming out of what she said. Like my prayer time, my bitterness, my unforgiveness. She's like, my goodness, it's always deeper than we think.
And what's really dope is I think that when we have language for our pain,
Mm-hmm.
right, bringing it to the Lord, because oftentimes the Lord just wants to shift our perspective and allow us to see it from a different angle, because I resonated with what you just said, because the mentor that you had, I think we're talking about the same person, right? He was a mentor for me as well. And when he fell and all the stuff came out, my wife would tell you, like, I had the shame. I introduced a lot of people to this particular person's work.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling like, man, like I remember like sitting on my deck one day and feeling like this sense of hopelessness, because I esteem this person so high, and I'm doing ministry and I'm so young in ministry. I'm like, man, will I last?
Mm-hmm.
Like God, why would you allow this to happen? And then I felt shame because I introduced so many people to his work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, and then I began to pray, and I began to ask Lord questions like, why did you allow this to happen? Yada, yada, yada. And I remember telling the Lord, like, he's taught me so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the Lord spoke to my heart and said, well, I'm still using him to teach you. I'm still using him to teach you. Like this, like I use everything. I don't let anything go to waste. And so like, even that was like, it shifted my perspective to know, like, no, God uses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. He uses men's failures. He uses men's faithfulness. He uses it all. And if we're faithful to him, he can use us.
I always say about him that I learned more from his death than his life. That his death and all the events that surrounded it taught me more about how to do ministry better than his life did.
Yeah. And that's the thing I love about God. He doesn't waste anything.
Yeah.
No, he don't.
Yeah.
He doesn't waste anything. He can use it all because he's sovereign. Yeah.
If you're a person who struggles with pornography use, or you know of people who struggle with pornography use, accountability is really a very helpful tool in having a porn-free life. And that's why we wanted to introduce you to Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is a ministry that for 23 years has been helping men, women, and families in the fight against pornography with their industry-leading software and resources. Victory by Covenant Eyes is a software that fosters online integrity through relationships that are centered around accountability. With powerful accountability features built in and optional blocking technology, Victory by Covenant Eyes is an unparalleled tool in the fight to live a porn-free life.
If we're being honest, a lot of us have struggled with porn. And if we haven't struggled with it, we watched it once, twice, or we thought about watching it. So I think Covenant Eyes is a great resource to help us to be accountable, not just to the Lord, but to one another.
Protect yourself, your heart, and your mind today by visiting covenanteyes.com and using the promo code PERRYS. That's PERRYS for 30 days free. Or you can click the link in the show notes today. Go to covenanteyes.com and be sure to use the promo code PERRYS. In the book, you talk about pain points. Can you explain, because you talk about Amazon and you give the mission and the vision of the Church of Amazon, and you talk about pain points and how apologetics answers these things. Like, I want us to flesh that out for the people.
Yeah. So I realized after talking with people about their doubts that every doubt is rooted in pain for the most part. So I could be talking to somebody about science and evolution, and they'll be like, yeah, I don't believe in God because of science. Then you flesh it out and you listen to them, and they'll be like, well, I prayed for my mom to be healed from cancer when I was a kid and she died. And so that's at the root. So the pain points is really getting to the root of the question and not arguing with people about the fruit of their question. So I saw this when we do a HBCU tour, historically Black college or university, and we were at Southern. Hebrew Israelites would follow our tour. They would come to each stop. The dude, they had a reader and the guy. Read, brother. And they were got up during Q&A. The guy that was the more aggressive one stormed out because he didn't I think Show or Vince had answered his question in a way he didn't like. So he stormed out the room. The other guy, tears welled up in his eyes. And he said, why are my people suffering like this? Why are we dying in the street? And it was at that moment I stopped seeing him as an adversary and saw him as just a human wrestling with the problem of evil. And so for him, the pain point was personhood, identity. And so what I'm pressing for in the book is to look beyond sometimes the aggression of people's questions and see what the pain is underneath. So personhood, peace. When we think about crystals and sage, people are trying to get peace.
Yes.
They're misguided in their peace, or they're trying to get protection because they felt unprotected by God. A lot of people are dealing with sexual violence and they feel like God didn't protect them. So they need other things to protect them. And really I pulled on that I was talking to a apologist in Nigeria. And I was like, how is doing apologetic work in Nigeria? He was like, yeah, a lot of people have converted to Christianity. However, they've went back and picked up African spiritualism to supplement it because they still felt like when they converted to Christianity, God was going to protect them from terrorists. And when they were still having to deal with that, they were like, well, God isn't enough. I need to go add some stuff. And I was like, well, that's similar to what's happening in the U.S.
Sure.
People are like, I'm a Christian. God didn't protect me from this. So I got to pick up some sage. I got to pick up something else.
That's why we got a lot of syncretism now.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
People just mixing religion and blending it. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
So peace, protection, provision are wrapped up, especially with provision. I think it hits a lot about prosperity gospel. If you grew up in a prosperity gospel teaching, the reality of life will shake you, right? Because you can't name it and claim it.
Yeah. Don't prepare you to suffer.
You can't sow. You can't give enough. I mean, you can't call Peter Popoff in the middle of the night and get the miracle spring water.
That's good.
Because that's not how life works. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. You will suffer. Peter said, after you have suffered a while, their suffering will be a part of your life. And sometimes that suffering will be financial. And so there is not enough good works in the world that can allow you to escape the trials of this life. And so provision becomes a pain point if you have this framework that if I sow, I'm going to get back. That's just not how it works. And so,
Pressed down, shaking together, and running over.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very practical question. If you are in ministry, how do you, not even in ministry, for yourself as a disciple, how do you identify your own pain points?
So I think several things. You have to sit with the Lord. A lot of people don't like quiet.
Yeah, we don't.
I had a friend, I said, well, why don't you just sit and quiet? He's like, when too much stuff comes up. I'm like, that's the stuff that needs to come up so you can deal with. So one is sit silently. We work our way through pain instead of dealing with pain. So we'll overwork, we'll overeat, we'll have sex, we'll watch porn, all of these things as avoidance tools. So we have to sit with the Lord quietly first for him to uncover our heart. Two, community is important.
Yeah.
People can see what you can't see. And what happens in our culture is people think, I have a therapist, so I'm good. But it's like, you need more than that because your therapist is only seeing you 1 hour a week, if that. And they cannot see, they have to determine at what point you lying. Because everybody else come into therapy with their own side of the story. It takes a therapist a while to flush out sometimes, this person ain't telling the truth.
Yep.
Or this person has the same issue with multiple people. Like, it's going to take them a while to get there. But if you have community that's walking with you, they can point out, hey, you still got some bitterness in your heart. You don't trust God here. You don't have the peace of God. Like, so a therapist, I think, is a helpful starting point, but it's not the be all, the ends all. You need people around you that know you well enough.
That's good.
And also the scriptures. So I think if you are sitting with God in prayer and in meditation and letting him uncover the things in your heart, God, show me where I'm at in my heart. Show me where there's impurities in my heart. Show me where there's bitterness, jealousy, envy, strife in my heart. He will begin to show you.
Yeah, he will.
And that's why in each chapter with a prayer, like giving people a guide on like, God, I don't trust you. I don't think you're good.
Yeah.
Like saying those things, rooting your life in scripture.
Yeah.
And then that community piece. I think it's real basic, but we don't do the basics. We want something deep.
It's the hard stuff.
Yeah, one thing that I learned by talking to people in other religions is that a lot of times people would like to. I think people think that it's like a theological, intellectual thing, but it's always emotional. It's always an emotional response. And even when you talk to atheists, brilliant atheists, who want to talk about the laws of logic or induction or the uniformity of nature, like all of these things, it's like, no, they had some stuff that happened to them when they were young, when their dad got cancer, or they mom and dad got a divorce, and they was mad at God, and that sent them down the road of, yada, yada, yada. I love stories, and I love analogies. And in the book, you tell stories well, and you give great analogies. And I used to love the show Cheaters. I used to love that show.
That show was so messy.
Not Cheaters, not
Catfish.
Cheaters,
Catfish.
I'm sorry. I love Cheaters and Catfish. I used to love the show Catfish. And you just gave a beautiful analogy in your book. And when I read it, it resonated with me so much, because I'm like, man, I wish I had this analogy when I was on the streets giving people the gospel, because it's such a great analogy to help people critically think through the goodness of God, the mercy of God, how to accept and embrace when they don't have. So could you break down that analogy and why you wrote it in the book?
Yeah, because for many of us, we don't realize our goal line for God is emotionally satisfying answers. And so
hold on, Yellow.
I'm telling you, this part in the book, I read it this morning.
Rewind.
I said, my gosh.
Say it one more time.
So for many of us, our goal line for God is emotionally satisfying answers. If the answers aren't emotionally satisfying, we won't believe they're true.
You better teach us.
And so I used Catfish because in Catfish, a person is online getting all emotionally satisfying answers, but none of it is true. And the truth, when the truth comes, they're often upset. The truth makes them mad. It makes them sad. It makes them cry. But ultimately, it liberates them from the deception of the emotionally sathing answers.
Keep going. But also, what you said was, when the person who's doing the show gives them the truth, they're in denial at first.
Yes.
They don't want to believe it.
Because the emotionally satisfying answers are more soothing to them. But it's not true. And so what I wanted people to see or think through is like, in life, answers are not always emotionally satisfying. But that doesn't rob the truth from them. Because we reject what doesn't satisfy us emotionally.
Yeah.
And that's our culture. Like, I don't feel like this is true, or how can this be true? And it's like, that's not the goal line for truth. And sometimes emotionally satisfying answers is what keeps us bound, and the truth will be the only thing that liberates us.
Yeah. And I love the end, because what you said, like, because it's true. Like, they were given news that this person who they thought loved them and they thought they were in love with doesn't even exist, or they're not even black. They like Hispanic or somebody, and they live in a different town that they thought they lived in. But you beautifully, at the end of that analogy, you beautifully said that even though they're disappointed, even though that they're hurt, they're still liberated by the truth. Like, they're still set free by the truth. They still are in a better place because God revealed truth to them.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we understand that as a people, like, it's a church, that was so good.
And the truth does hurt.
It does.
It hurts. Like, you got Jesus saying, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. To gouge it out, I have to believe truth. I have to obey you. I have to believe that what you're saying is actually worthwhile and worthy of my time and my intention.
Facts.
But it still hurts to remove the eye. And I think we live in a world where I feel like so much of our sin is just us coping with pain. I really do feel that way. Like it's just we're hurting, we're irritated, we don't have peace, we're confused, we're perplexed, like all the stuff. And it's like, how can I experience Eden apart from Christ? That's really what it is. Like I want heaven on earth now, when that's just not the way it's built. So speaking of peace, you talk about how peace ain't dependent on your circumstances, and peace ain't primarily a feeling and stuff like that. That's cool, Yellow. But like, there's a lot of times when like I do want to experience some freedom from angst and stress. Like, tell me about a time where your circumstances didn't give you peace, but God did.
Yes, I feel like that's most of my life.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
But I think for me, when I was struggling, it's been several times, with God around leading an organization. And like, I cannot do this. Sitting with the Lord and allowing him to uncover and do the work was the peace on the other side. So I talk about peace in 3 tiers. Peace with God, which is the work that Jesus did on the cross. And we have to accept his work, right? But then there's the part of peace that trips a lot of us up is peace with people. Because we don't want to do the work of reconciling and forgiving. And I know some people are hard to reconcile with because they don't apologize. And I know there's people that we can't reconcile with because they're violent and dangerous. So I'm not talking about that. But the average interpersonal relationships, we can most of the time do the work to fix those. We just don't want to. And I believe that sometimes God strips us of inner peace to force us to do that work. And he's like, you're not going to get that because I know that's what you really want. So you'll go and say, well, I'll get peace with sage and crystals. And God said, no, I want you to go talk to your father. You praying for peace. God said, he going to send you on an assignment. No, talk to your ex-friend. And then you're like, no, God, I need peace. I need a peace that surpasses all understanding. You said it would be mine.
Yeah.
He also said, if somebody has something against you, go to them. Or if you know somebody that has something against you, go to them. So he rigs it. He's like, it's not just about if you have somebody, because sometimes we'll say, I know I got something against it, but I deal with it myself. Then he's like, but if you know that somebody got something against you, we're always called to be the initiators of peace.
Yeah.
And healing in relationship. And so God is like, that's the part that I really feel like a lot of people don't have peace because they're not willing to do the second part.
That's good.
So that's one. And I think too, we misunderstand what peace is. Jesus is the Prince of Peace.
Yeah.
But he still cried. He still had what we call negative emotions. He still felt frustrated with the disciples. And so it's like, how are we thinking about peace in light of the example of Jesus?
Yeah.
That peace is not the absence of crying.
Yeah.
That I could be crying and still have peace. It's the assurance of the presence of God.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a lot of the things we're trying to achieve that we don't have good definitions for. So I talk about in the book purpose. And it's like, well, everybody's trying to get to purpose, but what is it? And it's like, it's almost like we're pursuing ambiguity. That we don't actually know what we're searching for. Actually, we're just searching for capitalist success, not actual God-given purpose.
Each.
And so I always say purpose is not what you achieve, it's who you become. Becoming more like God, which frees me from an actual external achievement. It's who I become in my character.
Yeah,
Do I look
good.
like
That's
Jesus?
a really good distinction.
And if I look like Jesus, I am living in purpose. Now, he may give me an assignment. Right now, my assignment is to do G3. 10 years from now, it could be doing something else. That's not my purpose. That's not my identity. That's not going to heal me. And I think sometimes for purpose, people are like, I experienced so much pain in my life. I got to do something grand to make it make sense. Because you're looking for healing. You're not looking for purpose. And God is like, no, I'm the healer. You don't have to do anything grand for your healing to take place. Your healing comes from me,
That's good.
the person of Jesus.
That's really good. You've been teaching this whole time. Probably got to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but I think you are doing such great work with you three. I've seen some of the most intriguing, the most interesting conversations through the Jude 3 Project and courageous conversations. And can you just tell the listener, what is Jude 3? Why did you start it? All the good things.
So Jude 3 Project is a Christian apologetics organization dedicated to helping Black Christians specifically know what they believe and why they believe it. We also have an emphasis on engaging skeptics of African descent. And we do this through a lot of ways, through film, through our 2 documentaries, through our podcast, through conferences, through other events, and our multimedia series.
That's good. That's good. And you started it when?
I started in 2014 in my last year at Liberty.
Yeah. And so it's a dope ministry. I mean, I've seen you've had conversations where people like it would be like 3 people who are on this side of, rational thinking or theological truth, and they have like really respectful conversations. And so I think it's just really dope to organize a space where people can come together who disagree, and to critically like help us think through the Bible, but also teach us how to like engage in respectful, dignifying ways. And so, yeah, it's just, we've been doing really great work.
So if your life is given Jacob, and if it ain't, it will, where you wrestling with the Lord, I think you should get the book, When Faith Disappoints, by Lisa Victoria Fields. All the information will be in the show notes. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Peace.
it.